Good morning, traders. Paul here with GammaEdge. Today is Tuesday, the 29th of November. Let's get started. Pause your players here. Read to the bottom. If you agree, hit that play button. Summary for today. Everything has reset to cash or short on the models. As we've been saying almost to ad nauseum, there is no major trend right now. We're chopping back and forth around the long-term trend, which is up, down, up, down. We have reset after 3 days to a cash or short position. Russell, NAS, SPX are all bearish. They are not participating, and in fact they are looking towards the downside. Goalposts unchanged. Plus GEX up at 41, minus GEX remains at 36. This has been the status quo now for a couple weeks, so we are clearly within that range. Transition ranges outside of the SPX PM-Settled. This is our own symbol for the PM. We isolate both the AM and the PM. They are wide and loose, very tight for the SPXP, but everything else is wide and loose. And this is not overly constructive for the bulls or the bears. We just want you to be aware of that. When we lose the floor of transition, it means we are transitioning. Funny how that works. We did finish in the lower ranges of these transitions, which, if we continue to push to the downside, could embolden the bears and they could open puts. When we open puts, the dealer response is to effectively sell futures in the correlated underlines, and that could push us down even further. So just be aware of that feedback mechanism. Based on this, we are mindful of calls being closed below us. This is important because these in-the-money structures right now, when we close that, we start basically putting downward pressure on the markets, and this is not constructive for the bulls. We're slamming these in-the-money calls with their deltas, which are, depending on where they are, if they're deep in the money or near the money, we're taking those deltas, which are positive, and we're removing them from the structure. The dealer response in that instance, when we have this action, this interaction, is to sell, much like what we were talking about up here. So again, need to be mindful of that. So what we would like to see is a pullback, some monetization of short-term puts as people lock in those profits. At the same time, the 0 DTE traders stepping in, 0 DTE, 1 DTE traders stepping in, adding calls, and then that can force us back higher and then rebuild what we have lost over the last couple of days under the 4,000 strike. This is the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that we have a hard time making higher highs, and we push lower. Review the charts for possible pinning areas. We're identifying many, and that's in part because of this loose transition range. The 0 DTE has a very clean, very defined transition at this 39.85 strike. Be aware of that. The 1 DTE offers a few areas. We highlight those in the Discord. We would not be surprised of a pin at this 39.25 to the downside, and would not be surprised at stalling if we go to the upside at that 40.20, 40.30 area. But also remember, we do see some possible 39.85, which you'll see on the charts. All of this stated, we do think downside supports remains in place today for 39.10, and we'll see how that plays out here. Looking at the market model, the cumulative tick model, 3 days up. We reversed pretty substantially yesterday. For those of you who are in the Discord voice, we were calling this out. Just everybody was aware of it. There was no surprises yesterday. When we cross this horizontal band, which shows there's no trend, there is no long-term trend. And so if you're trying to get into a long-term position, you're going to get chopped around. That's just as easy as it gets. So you need to shorten your time frames until this starts definitively trending up or trending down. Taking a look at key levels, we did see some changes in the SPX PM-Settled complex, which is over here on the left. We saw plus GEX drop from 40.50 to 4,000. We saw minus GEX actually come up from the 39.35, which was the JPM level, not even shown on here right now, or the 38.35 JPM level, I'm sorry. Up to this 39.50, and we also saw POI dropped as we saw some monetization. So some very interesting things going on in the very shortest of term, again impacted by the 0 DTEs and 1 DTEs. Over here in the combo, which is the AM and PM settled complex, no changes. We're seeing kind of more of the same. We are seeing more negative deltas creep in. When we see negative deltas creep in up at top, that shows that calls are being monetized or sold, and that's indicative of a downward force on the market. Do want to note the expected move is a little higher today. We've been running underneath 2%, and we are now creeping back up with the increase in VIX, which is not shown here. PM settled, nice tight range that you're seeing here, just below the 4,000 strike. We don't think without a significant amount of calls being added that we're going to push higher than this range, and we could see some stalling. You'll see that in the next couple slides. We think this downside area, we've basically eroded this in the PM settled complex, and this is not good for the bulls. So we need to see some calls being added. So I'd like to see some monetization of these puts, in addition to calls being added as price drops down. Add some calls in here, turn the deltas back positive. Note, we need to see calls going in up here too. We are eroding the PM complex, which is the short-term complex. We have to pay attention to that. That is a big deal. Taking a look at the 0 DTE, as I said, very well defined 3980, 3985 transition. We finished right here at the 3965, which just happens to be the largest expiry for today. No surprises there. Pretty low delta exposure, not an ideal place to park, but nevertheless there it is. And then as we head south, that 3900, 3905 area is what it is. So just keep a look, keep a watchful eye on the 0 DTE for today, 3980, 3985, very clean. Of course, the daily action will play around with this a little bit, but we would not be surprised of a settle into this area into the close. The 1 DTE, that 4020, 4025 upside area looks to be fairly constructive to moving up, but note we've got a lot of negative deltas. Structure below that 3905, 3910 is pretty good, but getting weaker. So any additional downside puts here is just going to start eroding. Now this is for tomorrow's projection of what comes off, so just be aware that structures are changing pretty dramatically because of the 0 DT and 1 DTE action, so this picture could change. But nevertheless, this is what we're looking at, our crystal ball into tomorrow. Looking at the overall complex, very strong across the board here. Transition is tighter than it was yesterday, which is positive. That's good. Note the JPM down here at 38.35, giving us a sole negative deltas down here. Don't anticipate getting down there because we've got to get through all of this and some pretty fat numbers in here in terms of positive deltas, call deltas here. So don't think we're going to see that monetization in any quick term. Also don't think we're going to run up very quickly here for the same reason to the north. Note the 4,000 strike, and note that we do have some areas developing which are natural pinning areas. So just be aware of that. The deltas are all call dominated, and we think they're going to remain there. Finally, I'd like to end on this because it's pretty clean what's going on. 4,100 plus GEX, 3,600 minus GEX to the downside. You can see where we are. We've fallen out of where I'd like to see us. I'd like to see us right here at transition, making runs up and runs down. We're slipping back, so this 3930 zone is going to be really, really key. This is stuck for several days. If we lose the 3930, Katie, bar the doors. All right, so we need to get above 4015 and hold it into the close. We need to stay above 3930 and not be below it to empower the bulls. So just be aware of all that, and we'll go from there. So with that, I bid you farewell. If you have any questions, comments, come and join us at GammaEdge.us. Click on the pricing tab, fill out the blanks, come in. 14-day free trial, no risk to you. Good stuff. Twitter, follow us, GammaEdges with an S. YouTube. If you like today's content, let me know immediately by smashing that like button. Provides immediate feedback. Then, of course, subscribe, because Taylor and I put out videos. We try to do 2 a day. And based on that, give you a good view of what we're seeing in terms of how to apply gamma and delta to your overall learning and educational sequencing in investing. So with that, have a good one. Hope to see you in the Discord. Good luck trading.